Hey everyone, it's Foxx from modelmakingguru.com here, and welcome back to part 4 of our absolute beginner build of the HGUC Geara Zulu 1/144th scale Gunpla. Haha, you can see now after the time-lapse one from the last one, everything is built. Lovely. I am adoring this mobile suit. It is so cool. Now, you may have thought we'd finished from the last one. We haven't. This is just assembling it to get the next few stages done. What I'm going to do in this episode, I'm going to show you matte varnishing next in a moment. Then we're going to do the dry brushing for weathering, for some metallic weathering. And then a few little bits and bobs. We've got to finish off the thrusters. If you note in the build thing, I didn't put the thrusters on there. There's a very good reason for that, and I'll show you those later. And then that will be done. However, I think what I'm going to do is an extra episode where I go above and beyond what I originally intended to show in this video. So I'm going to do some little extra advanced techniques at the end in an extra episode, just because there's little bits I want to do that I think are a bit too advanced for an absolute beginner. Maybe not, but a bit too advanced for the scope of this original series, but I want to add them on just so you can see if you can do them, because they're quite easy, but they require some extra products that I haven't mentioned before. So let me go and get this thing ready, and we'll go outside and do some matte varnishing. Back in a moment. How to apply your matte top coat. You're going to need to go outside so you don't gas everybody with the really stinky fumes. You're going to need yourself, obviously, or a suitable idiot. Yeah, very good. If you can get someone really small so they can fit in shot, that would also be cool. Can't get the staff. You're going to need your model that you're going to top coat. Yes, that's it. Well done. You're going to need some matte varnish. I'm using Humbrol 49 acrylic rattle can. And no, don't huff the matte varnish. And you may want to wear some gloves. You don't have to, but it just saves you getting your hands covered in matte varnish and then having to wash that off, which can be a right pain where do I get these people? Thumb in the thumb hole. Yes, there you go. Much better. I don't pay him enough, or I pay him far too much. I'm not quite sure which one it is. Okay, so what we're going to do first, we're going to actually top coat the model itself first. You can see here I've got any little accessories on sticks. These are just barbecue skewers. You can't make pew pew noises when you're being silent. Thank you. They're just on barbecue skewers with alligator clips stuck on the end. Now, get your can of matte varnish, give it a darn good shake. Shake the living poop out of it. You want it to be really, really mixed. Yeah, I think it's mixed now. You could just get on with it, honestly. Now, don't press the button straight away. Press it away from the model, pan it across the model, and release the button. Again, press it away from the model, pan it past the model, and release the button. The reason to do that is that when you first press the button, you'll get blobs of stuff coming out as it's congealed in the nozzle, and you don't want that going on your model. This way you guarantee a steady flow. Let's go. Press, pan, release, press, pan, release, press. Sorry, I'm almost singing there. I do apologise. Now he's keeping it about... talking in third person, it's me, you idiot. Keep it about 30 centimetres or so from the model. Go in light coats. Don't try and get everything at once, and don't hold the can in one place. If you don't think you've got enough, give it a little time to dry, and then come back and apply a second coat. But go in light coats. That way you avoid building up large amounts of varnish or top coat, and you avoid big blobs where it pools. So do a light coat, let it dry for 15-20 minutes depending on how long the drying time is for your varnish, and then have a look at it. If you think it needs more, just repeat the process. You can see here I'm doing the accessories on the sticks. Again, I'm keeping them about 18 to 20 to 30 centimetres per arm's length, and I'm doing the press, pan and release. I'm not pressing the nozzle pointing at the thing I'm spraying, because I want fine mist, not blebs, from the nozzle of the tin. It's kind of not very exciting to watch this, I know that.
It's even less exciting for me to have watched it for the 6th time and to be narrating over it. But I make these sacrifices for you. Give it one last blast. Make sure to get it from all sides. Get it from above as well. Just giving it one last blast. I'll come back in about half an hour and give it more if I think it needs more. I will also come back and do the feet and underneath later on. Yeah, the fumes can get quite bad, that's why you do it outside. But we are job done!
As you can see now, we have a much less shiny looking model, less toy-like. It's a little bit of shine. I gave it a couple of coats, an extra coat after I filmed that little bit last time, just to give it a bit more dullness. And you can see now it's looking lovely and matte and not shiny. You will notice the metallic parts, which were beautiful and shiny before, are now also a bit less shiny. They're not completely matte, but they're a bit less shiny. That's fine. That's fine. I am going to do an extra episode once. I want to give you the option just to add a little bit more. And one of those things is to bring the shine, some shine back to these metallic parts. You notice I didn't put the thrusters on any of the verniers or thrusters. That's because I'm going to show you how to make them look awesome. We're going to do some dry brushing with our MIG 191 steel or whatever metallic paint you have to hand, just to scuff this up a little bit. Do note the panel lining, because I used the grey, the panel lining has now disappeared a little bit under the matte coat. Whenever you do any kind of top coat like this, anything you've done on there like weathering of any kind, it will blend away and fade, especially if you use things like pastels and so on. They will fade away a little bit, so keep that in mind. So let's crack on. First thing we're going to do is the dry brushing with the metallics. We're going to make this thing look a little bit more scuffed and rough around the edges, not too much. Now the reason we're doing this after the matte coat is that I want the dry brushing I do now to stay shiny. If I did it before the matte coat and then matte coated it, it wouldn't be shiny. That's why we're doing it now after the matte coat, because we're not going to put any more varnish on this now, so whatever we put in here will stay shiny or matte, whatever that product looks like. Oh, and I may also have one other product I'm going to use. I may potentially use some, or I will use some graphite, so we'll explain that as well later. First of all, let's get this dry brushing done. To the dry brushing bat cave. Just go. Just go. Okay, right, let's start some dry brushing. Now here you can see the leg. I've actually taken everything apart into components like torso, head, arms, leg, backpack and the weapons, because it's going to be easier to work that way. You can see here it's much less shiny now, it's much less plasticky. It's a little bit of shine to it, it's more of a satin finish. There's a bit too much shine there, but it looks a lot worse on camera. I only went for a very light coat, so you can see it's a bit speckly with the matte finish. It's not a smooth matte finish, but that's fine. I don't mind, because it's going to look slightly weathered anyway. So, you know, unless you're making an unpainted Gunpla that's going to look like a brand new out the factory thing, don't worry too much. So, what are we going to do? Well, what you're going to need for the dry brushing, you can hear me shaking it, is the paint. Again, I'm using a MIG 191 steel. You can use whatever silver paint you've used before, or whatever paint takes your fancy. Go for a silvery paint anyway. We are going to need a brush for dry brushing. I'm using my standby dry brushing chrome silver brush. I call it that because I usually dry brush Tamiya chrome silver. It looks filthy, it's just paint, don't worry about it. It is a flat edge, chisel edged brush, and it's a medium stiff brush. You want a flat brush, any size you want. You can get big ones or small ones, but I find the flat ones best for what we're going to do. Don't have it too soft and don't have it rock hard. If you do have a rock hard brush, it'll just drag scrapes into the paint and that'll look rubbish. So you want some smooth blending here. So medium to soft. We also need a piece of tissue. So how do we do this? Dry brushing, super easy. Anybody who's watched my other videos will know how you do this, but you're the absolute beginner. This is just my little pot I've been using for, as you can tell, steel, and it's freaking the white balance out. Take a bit of your paint, splooge, take your dry brush, get the paint in there, get it, loads of paint on the brush, take your magical tissue of tissueness, and then get most of the paint off. Just, you want almost nothing left. It's a real waste of paint doing this, but it looks fantastic. So wait till you're getting almost nothing at all, because we're going to build this up. There goes almost nothing left on there now. So how do we do this? We take our model piece, and we're going to use this to suggest scuffing and scraping on edges. So let's put some scuffing and scraping on edges. Let's do the foot because it'll be the easiest for you to see. Dead easy. Keep your brush at about 45 degrees to any edge because you want to work from the edge up or down. This is where the contact with the ground is, so I want to work up. Imagine this is the paint being scraped off and revealing stuff underneath. You can do as much or as little as you like, and I'm using almost no pressure. And there's probably too much paint on that. Yep, far too much. There's paint hiding in the bristles. Less paint. So I'm going to go back again. And I'm just, with no pressure at all, I'm just building up. You can see me working here. I'm dragging the brush across from the edge like this, and then dragging it across very light the surface, so it just covers the edges a little bit. I'm going to put more on the tips of the toes. A little bit around the edge there, and then quite a bit on the heel. And see how it catches this edge, excuse me, and this edge? That's the idea of the 45 degrees. So it catches the edge without painting the whole thing. And this is all I'm going to do. Now, if I was painting this myself personally, I wouldn't just use this metallic shade. I'd do lots of other things as well, paint chipping and so on. But this is a good place to start. Get used to dry brushing. If I did this enough, this would actually look like a piece of like iron with dark shades. I could build this colour up so much it looked like a piece of shiny metal with dark shadows to it. Let's do some more underneath. See, I've not loaded the brush again yet. Let's go underneath. And I want to try and catch some edges. So let's get some edges. Edges? We don't need no stinking edges, senor. So see, I'm going 45 degrees to the edge here. And I'm just pulling it back along the edge. I'm always going back onto the flat surface. Because if you look at anything that's got wear and tear, the edge gets the wear and tear first, and then it fades in. So I'm just going to try and catch this edge here. I hope this is all in focus. Now I'm probably going to do more than I normally would here, just for the benefit of you guys watching this. I'm going to go a bit overboard just so it shows up on camera and you can see what I mean. And then I'm just going to lightly go over the top. Now, one other thing you can do, of course we painted these thrusters the steel colour and then put the wash over the top, and now it's had a matte varnish. So they're looking a bit not shiny. So I can go over those. And I'm just going over like this. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just reload the brush so I get my paint back. I'll get that paint on the tissue again. And the trick with dry brushing is don't go in all at once with all the paint in the world. If you start off with almost no paint at all on the brush and you find that almost nothing's coming off on the model, that's brilliant, because that gives you the chance to work your way up from nothing to something. If you put loads of paint on straight away, you can't make that less paint. But if you don't put enough on, you can make it more paint. So I'm going on here on these thrusters. I'll just see if I can catch the edges. And you'll see more of this when we do the other thrusters. It's hard to see on camera, it's hard to see in real life, but there will be a little tiny bit more shine to those thrusters now. Okay, so that's that bit done. A little bit more. Look around this edge here. Think about where edges will catch. Let's just try to pull that off. That wasn't supposed to happen. Darn it. I can't remember what kind of joint this is now. Is it a ball and socket? Momento per favore. There we go. Live TV, folks. Joys of live TV. So I'm just going to try and catch that edge there. So if you look at wear and tear happens in reality. Oh, this is weathering, by the way. Welcome to weathering. It usually happens on edges and works its way down, like I said. So try and catch edges. They're the easiest bits to do. Let's go on these here. And you'll see, of course, it looks different when it's on different colours. Now, you can use whatever colours you want for weathering. You can use different colours. I don't know if silver will work over this gold, but we'll give it a try. See what happens. It might just fade the gold a bit. There you go, look, fades it a little bit. Makes it look a bit more blended. Cool, I quite like that. I quite like that. That's quite interesting, eh? Apologies for my attempt at a southern accent. I'm a northern monkey, so hey, what can I do? What can I say? I'll do a bit more here. Now what I can do, while I've got not much paint left, I can jab with the tip of the brush and make little patches. And like I said, if you start off with less, you can build up to more. You can't start off with more and work to less. So let's do a bit more on this heel. Try and keep it as random as possible. Now you could do this with other paints like sand colours and dirt colours and non-metallic colours. I find dry brushing with anything that's acrylic and not metallic, I actually find it quite challenging and I don't really enjoy the process. But that may just be I suck at it, but I'm good with metallics. Metallics are very forgiving. So give it a try by all means. I would use normally other things like pastels and powders, and I might do some powders or pastels in the extra episode, not in this beginner's level section. Okay, so now we can see, we have, hopefully you can see, some reasonably decent scrapey on there. I've kept it subtle, I don't want it to look too battered. I know, people who know me regularly will be like, what, you mean you don't want it to look weathered? Well, of course I do. But there you go. That's how it comes out. Now I'm going to go off and do the rest of the entire model. I'm going to do more on the legs and the waist and stuff than I would on, say, the upper parts of the model, because there's more wear and tear on the feet and the bottom of the legs. I'll do quite a bit on the shield because that takes the brunt of any battle, but things like the backpack and the torso wouldn't get that much. In fact, let me give the torso a go now. Just see, I'll show you what I mean. Torso wouldn't necessarily get that much wear and tear. So for this, and I can go over stickers, of course I can. For this, it's more just of a catching the edges on this one. There we go. I think there's something in my room. I keep hearing rustling noises in this room. I don't know if it's something shifting and settling or there's actually a creature in here with me of some sort. I did have a mouse in this room once. Woke me up late at night and I could hear something moving around. I thought it was the birds in the loft. We have swifts that live in our loft. Looked out from my bed and no, it was a mouse. I was like, it's really cute, but it has to go. Now I'm going to go around the neck part here. I've taken the head off because I can't normally get to this. And what I will do is around the arms here, because this is where the arms are, I might do a bit more around here. So I'll go from the edge of this socket out and just jab it a little bit. Not too much, I just want it to be subtle. Just a little bit more dry brushing. I wanted to show you one other little trick, which I alluded to, starting off with less and working up to more. Let's say, for example, this in a frame, if I was painting it, I'd use metallic colours. However, this is grey plastic. Can we make this look like metal? Well, yes we can. Look at that. That's exactly the same in the frame. And I'm going to show you how to do that really quickly, just by building up the colour like I mentioned. Dead easy. Same dry brushing technique as before, and all we're going to do is a bit of this. Start off light. Just start with the 45 degrees on the edges. Now notice I'm going from here down because there's a lip there where that bit is, so I'm catching that lip. You could do it that way, but I don't want to get paint on this, so building it up slowly, slowly. We'll work back from this edge. And what we're doing here is we're basically getting paint on the whole piece, but we're getting more on the edges and less in the middles. When I was saying in the foot about how you could take that grey piece and make it look like metal if you just built up the colour. Now you could just paint this, the metal colour, but this I think gives a much more interesting look. Now you will learn over time how to feather and fade like I'm doing here. But you'll see now, hopefully if I can get the focus right and the lighting, that now looks much more metally and much less plasticky. Let's do some on here as well. Now bear in mind, I'm not being careful here, I'm not being super delicate. I'm just getting the brush in there. If you have to do the brush sideways, that's sometimes handy. I'm just getting the brush in and I'm working the edges. Now remember how I said these silver bits I painted with the pen were a bit scribbly around the edge? That's fine, because I knew I'd be doing this. And this will blend a little bit, hopefully, sort of. Let's put some more paint on the brush. This will blend the silver marker with the paint we're adding now, and it will just fade and feather that edge a little bit. And this is all you need to do. Now, if you've watched my perfect grade Zaku build, you'll see how I've used this exact same technique on the inner frame. I painted the inner frame gunmetal, and then I dry brushed this steel colour over that to cover up most of the gunmetal, but leave enough dark and shadowy areas, and the areas where the paint is look shiny. Now, because we've already matte varnished this, of course, we're not going to matte varnish it again, so this bit will stay shiny, and what I'll end up with, hopefully, is the inner frame parts looking nice and metallic, and the rest of it looking matte. So dry brushing can be a very powerful and yet very, very easy way to make your model look much more interesting. And if you plan carefully which bits you do when, that's the one trick with Gunpla, is that you'll end up with some matte parts and some shiny parts. And if you're going to do a matte top coat at some point, you need to plan ahead and know what's going to be shiny and what's not. So there we have now two, I hope you'll see on camera, two much more metallic-y looking inner frame parts. And that looks much more, compare that on the right to that on the left. Much better. Much better! So you can see I've gone a bit subtle on the, gone a bit over on the things there, but on this I've gone to town basically. I put loads on. So now that rough edge where the marker was, that the Sharpie pen, not a problem. And this now looks much more like metal, much less like plastic. And the beauty is, because of course it collects on the edges first and foremost, you've got the paint is faded around the flat areas, but is prominent on the edges, so the edge will always pick up a bit more shine than the rest. And so it can be tricky to get to. And you could do all this before you assemble the whole thing, but this is an HG kit, you don't need to worry about that. And just keep going until you load more paint. And you can do this as much and as little as you want. Like I said, if you did this enough, you just have a silver piece. So I'm really pleased with that. I just started doing it and I thought I'll just get the camera out again and just show you. So that now looks much more like a metallic inner frame, and with almost no effort whatsoever. How cool is that? On to the next bit. Okay, and here it is. All the dry brushing is now done. All the metallics. You can see here on the knees, on the ankle guards, there's little hints of metallic shades. Just very subtle. Like I said, keep it simple. Use the old adage, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. I didn't do too much on these ammo packs, on the clips, because they're supposed to be, well, you assume they're not that old, because they use them and throw them away. Did a fair bit on the side skirts. You can see here, maybe in this light's a bit better, you can see here the metallic on the knee coming out rather nicely. What else did we do? Gussied up the weapons holder here. A little bit on the backpack, so you've got some around these pieces on the edge. I've added the thrusters here, and I'll be showing how to get this effect next when we do the two bell thrusters for the leg skirts. I went to town on these shoulder parts, quite nice. Again, nothing too major, just enough to suggest some wear and tear, so it's not factory fresh. I could put quite a bit on the spikes. I just thought it looks quite good with the paint coming off the spikes. Just looks kind of kick-ass. So there you go. A little bit on the helmet here. You can see on the front of the helmet, on the what will be a gas mask canister, but it's not, obviously, because it's a giant mobile suit, not a bloke in a suit. Although I have to say, this kind of looks like a dude in power armour rather than actual mobile suit. You could put this next to a, I don't know, a figure of the same size and make some kind of post-World War II Wolfenstein future 1960s type thing going. I'll just shut up. Moving on. Shielder did quite a bit on the bottom, suggesting this is dunked on the ground quite a lot, and a bit round the hinge, because that's where there's a bit of traffic. Quite pleased with how it came out on the shield. There's a lot of very, very little paint on the brush, just fading it slightly, so the edges pick it up. You see on there. And when I do the graphite a bit later on, we'll focus on edges like these, just to make it maximally shiny. Yeah, so really pleased with it. What else? I'll show you the weapons, because they're obviously done as well. If I can get this thing to stand up without falling over. There you go. Now, I've done the weapons here. Now before I show you, let me show you a picture of what the gun looked like before I dry brushed it. And here it is after I dry brushed it. How cool is that? Here's the rifle. It took me about a minute. Maybe a minute. I kept the hand on there while I did it, but that took me maybe at best a minute of just quick dry brushing. So next step, I'm going to show you quickly how I did those little thrusters on the back. Basically what I'm going to show you, let me move, I don't know why I put him back in shot again. Do you know? Right, this is a done thruster. You can't see it because of the lighting, but there is that ink in there. And it's got a little bit of dark staining to it, and then it's got the shiny metal around the edge. And just compare it to one that's just got the paint on it. It's very, very subtle, and I doubt it even comes out on camera. But this one looks a little more worn than this one. And I'm going to show you how I made this look like this. So let me go and get everything ready, and we'll do that. Okay, so here is our leg bell thruster. It's just the steel colour brush painted onto the plastic, if you remember. So, already a bit shiny, but let's go ahead and give it some business. In my little pot here, we have some more of that ink, if you remember we used last time. I still can't remember if it's Winsor & Newton or Daler Rowney or what. Going to add a little bit of water because it's too dark and thick as it is. Just a few drops. Okay, then we're going to take our brush. This couldn't be simpler. Same as last time. Take our brush. I'm going to put the tissue down, just for drips. In fact, no, I'm not, because you can't see a thing. Take our brush and just brush it on. I'm going to go inside first, actually. I'm being quite generous inside, because this is a rocket thruster, so it's going to be full of nonsense inside. Get some of the excess out. And then on the outside, I'm just going to quickly brush on. Now I've actually thinned it down quite a bit. If you used it less thin, it will be a darker effect. I probably mixed it a bit too thin actually, but hey, there's nothing wrong with being subtle. Okay, that's that. Now what we want to do, we want the ink to collect on these ridges, so we're going to have it this way up. So I'm just going to get some more, do it again. And we're just browning it at the moment. So we're going to put it to one side, have it hanging up this way, so it can collect on those ridges and dry out. I'll probably come back and do a second coat as well, and apologies for the lighting, it's one of my lights has gone a bit wonky. So I'll probably come back and do a second coat when this is dried after about 20 minutes. When we come back, we'll do the dry brushing, and then it's done. And now hopefully you can see that's looking much more grubbier than it was originally. Quite nice in there, you still can't see it because of the lighting. So that's the oil stain and heat stain added. That's effectively what we're doing, just by using a single ink. So we need to just make that shiny again. So couldn't be simpler. Let's just put this here, sort my focus out for you so you can see. Now you know what we're going to do now. You know exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take our little super shiny pot. We're going to take our steel, or whichever silver paint you prefer. We're going to get some paint. You know how this works. We're going to take most of it off on the magical paper of pepperiness. I'm going to take as much off as I normally would. I'm going to leave a bit more than normal. And then we're simply going to make sure we're in focus. And then dry brush. I'm going to go from the top down. Ready? Let's do it. Going to go from the top down so I can make sure I catch that little edge. Fade it down. Very gently. Again, as before, no pressure. I'm going this way because I want it to catch on the edges of those little steps and not go into the grooves around the steps. I want it to catch the top edge. I'm going to go across the top here. Put a fair bit on here because I want this to be shiny. I'm going to get a bit more paint. Do. Rub it off on the paper. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing there. Ever get the impression I'm in a jolly mood? Go back to this. I'm just bringing back the shine and what I'm hoping to achieve. And I think this one's actually come out better than the other one, which just looks silver. But I'm hoping to achieve, and I'm hoping you can see on camera, and you probably can't, if I move the camera a bit into the light. Sorry about that. Now let's see if I can get this to focus. What you might see, if I can get to focus actually in the picture, what you might see is it looks nice and silvery, but there's just a hint of tarnishiness, sort of still little bits of brown patchiness there, broken up by the shiny steel colour. And inside, of course, I've not gone in there, so that still looks brown. But because I've gone that way with the brush, I've left the steps, the little ridges, still tinted brown. And that's all I'm really looking for. A steel colour with a hint of brown, just to suggest maybe heat. There are millions of other ways to do it, but this is a really quick and simple way. Just using ink and dry brushing your silver paint. And there you go. So, we'll go and put these onto the mobile suit. Right, so we're on to the last step in this absolute beginner build. There will be an extra episode, like I've said, with some more advanced techniques. But for this last step, you're going to need, well, I'm going to use this. It is a stick of graphite. Now, don't panic if you don't know what or where to get a stick of graphite or what it is. You can very easily find graphite in the pencils. Dead easy. So, what we're going to do, this is a stick of graphite. It's basically pencil then, what you get inside a pencil. What you need is your craft knife, and you need, just simply, to scrape some off. You need to make a little pile of graphite. It's quite relaxing, this. So what in the name of Lord Baby Jeebus am I actually doing? Wow, I didn't even plan that sentence. Well, we're going to add some last touches. Graphite, as you'll know from pencils, is very shiny. Comes off as a black powder like this. But in reality, if it's applied thinly enough, it's super shiny. And you actually find this in a lot of metallic paints. Is this really annoying you yet? Is it really getting like fingernails down the blackboard? I don't even know if this is enough. So let's just stop, because that's probably really annoying. What we want to do, if you remember, we actually, because we matte varnished over all the metallic parts, they're not shiny anymore. However, what we want to do is bring back a little bit of bling just to those edges. So it's dead simple. Basically, get your finger. This is a finger. You've probably got some of these. Get the graphite on your finger. Get a bit going on. Schmunge it out. And you can see there it's super reflective. All you're going to do is take the graphite and just pop it on some of these edges. Now this probably won't come out on camera. Well, we'll do some on these thrusters. I need to line those thrusters up properly. They're a bit wonky. Wonky donkey. There we go. And I'm just working my way around those edges. You have to kind of rub it quite a bit. You have to put a bit of pressure on. It's not a delicate touch on this one. Okay, so let's look at that thruster there. So let me just focus that for you. So let's look at that thruster there. Okay, you see the edge? Get the old graphitulations. And if we just rub it, you have to put a bit of pressure on. You rub it, squish it down a bit. You should see now it's got a much more shiny metallic edge, and it's just that subtle hint. So I'm quite pleased with that. Now, there is a downside to this technique. Obviously, if you were to then put a matte varnish on, it would disappear. Or any kind of varnish, it will just vanish. So this is a last thing you do type technique. Now the downside is, because it's the last thing you do, of course, it's just a powder. So excessive handling of this model, here we go, here's an idea, he'll give you a really good idea. Look at that edge there. How good's that? I'll do this. How's that? Yes. I've not done this for so long actually, it takes me a little bit of practice to remember how to do it and get back into the swing of it. Yeah, so you won't be varnishing over this because it just removes that effect altogether. So, what's the downside? The downside is, of course, that with handling, it'll just rub off. Same with weathering pastels. Think of it like just a shiny weathering pastel. So if you were to handle this model all the time, eventually, it would all just come off. I don't want to do it on that side, you're not even going to see that side. It would all just come off and you'd lose the effect. So, it really is a kind of last thing you do type technique. But it's really only, if you know you're never going to handle this model again, then you're good to go. If you want to play with your model, you don't want to do this because it's just going to come off. You need some more graphite. Graphite! Let's make ourselves another little, I'm enjoying this. Make ourselves another little European graphite mountain. But it's just a way to give a little bit of sparkle to the edges. It's not going to change the colour of anything really. Let's change the focus of that. It's not going to change the colour of anything, but it is going to bring a bit of sparkle to your metallic parts. And if you had if you had the inner frame separated out, you could do this on your inner frame edges, the same as I did with the dry brushing. Again, think of it like a shiny pastel more than anything else. So I'm going to go off and do this in other parts of the kit where I think it's warranted. And then when we come back, we'll have the finished piece. Look at that. Quite pleased with that. Right, I'll go off and do the rest. Back in a moment. And so we are done. Behold what we have achieved at the end of our absolute beginner build using just the simplest of techniques. Nothing too complex, nothing too scary for somebody who's never done it before. Now, I should say, really from the start, I shouldn't really have used the word beginner, because it almost sounds like a kind of derogatory term. It's like saying noob. Don't think of yourself like that. If this is your first time building and painting a model, or first time doing a Gunpla, or any kind of model, these techniques can be applied to any kind of model. And if this is your absolute first time, then don't think, oh, mine's going to come out looking rubbish, I'll be terrible, this sucks, I don't want to do it ever. Don't think like that. So maybe beginner was too harsh a word. Experience comes with time, and expect that your first few kits will not look anywhere near as good as the kits you make later on in life. But that's part of learning and growing up. I'm making kits now that I couldn't have made 5 years ago. And I was making kits 5 years ago that I couldn't have done 5 years before that. So everybody learns, I learn, I've been doing this for 35 years and I'm still learning techniques all the time. I've just picked up on a paint technique from my good friend Tony McPony Fairclough, who's just exposed me to a particular kind of paint that I will be using on a future build because it's awesome. Tony, you know what I'm talking about. But there's always room to learn and develop new skills. And that's what this is all about. So hopefully this has shown you some new things. Either you're building with your young son or daughter and you've not done this before and they've not done this before, and hopefully you've learned some things that will be helpful to you, or hopefully just building by yourself and it's your first build, your first model, and you're just slowly working your way through and just starting. And if you're just starting out, it can be a bit scary and terrifying. Look at all the different techniques and what should I do and what's the best thing to use. Just stick to a small number of techniques like we've done here and work through them, get good at them, then move on to some more techniques later on and just build up your repertoire of skills. That's what this is all about. I believe that anybody, anyone on this planet can do this. Just follow what I've done. You can do this and you can do it as well as this. So there's no one on this planet that can't do what I've done. I believe that absolutely. Everyone's got the ability to do it. All you need to do is learn what to use and how to use it, and that's as simple as that. So we've covered some basic techniques. We've covered using panel line markers for your panel lining. I didn't cover Gundam markers because I used the metallic Sharpies instead. Somebody did point out to me the correct way to use actual Gundam markers is not to use them as markers. When I was saying about the paint just all coming out and going, and you can't use them. You're supposed to get the pen into a little container and dip it into the container and get the paint in there and then brush it on. I knew that, but I didn't want to show that because that was a bit too far advanced. Not too advanced, but a bit more complex than I wanted to show. We've used Sharpies, we've used graphite, we've used inks for the washes. And we've done dry brushing. And I think, I've got to say, these interior frames on the legs coming out looking absolutely fantastic. I'd surprised myself, actually. Honestly, truthfully to you, I surprised myself because I didn't think they'd come out looking that good. So we've taken those interior frame parts from just simple bits of plastic to looking like metal. And the thrusters, they look like, you know, it's not a perfect paint job. If I dry brush the steel on like I did with the legs, if I painted them, say, black and dry brush the steel on, they would have looked a million times softer and smoother. But you know what? I'm loving the way they look right now. We've taken parts that look like plastic and made them look like metal. And just using the simplest of techniques. No panic, no sweating. And for the first time I've done a kit and put stickers on it. And it was actually quite good fun. I don't mind using these stickers. These are the edgeless stickers, the foil stickers. Because there's no edge. I wouldn't use the marking stickers. As I said before in the other film, they have the clear film around the edge and that looks a bit pants. So I wouldn't use those. But yeah, I'm really pleased with that. So, hopefully you've learned some new things in this little series. Hopefully you can now go out and do some work if you know done before. Do some work on a kit and get it looking as good as this. I believe you can do it. You just need to believe you can do it because you can. So I hope it's been helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you've never watched any of my stuff before and this is your first build and this is the first time you've seen this, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Do go and check out my other stuff. I go up through the skill levels from level 1 to level 5. I do all kinds of different techniques. If you're a first time watcher, I've got loads of little playlists. Everything's in playlists so you can see different builds. It's fun to watch some of my stuff and see how in some of the older builds I try a technique for the first time and it comes out kind of looking like ass. But nowadays I'm probably better at it. So some of my older videos, yeah, I use some techniques that maybe don't come out quite right. The first time I used streaking grind from Ammo of MIG, for example, it wasn't the best effort. So yeah, we all learn. We're all learning. But yes, thank you so much for watching. Go and build stuff. Go and do amazing things. Go and do your first ever Gunpla. Hey, fathers, mothers, parents, get your kids a Gunpla or any kind of simple model. These are perfect as a snap fit, so it's a good start. They don't have to worry about gluing and all that kind of stuff. Go and get them a cheap little HG kit, get them to build it, and build it with them. It's good family time, it's good fun. You can do the complicated knife and nipper stuff, they can do the buildy stuff, and then you can both have fun doing the painting. So just go and do it. And send me pictures of how you get on. Let me know how you do. Show me what you build, show me what you paint. I'll quite happily post up on the Facebook page. Just send me a message on the Model Making Guru Facebook page, include your pictures in there, attach them in, and then I'll post them up on the front page. And I happily welcome pictures from everybody. I will never say this is terrible. I will never say it's not very good. I know you're proud of what you do, and I'm proud of what you do. So whatever your level of ability, it's all awesome. Send me the pictures, I'll post them up. So again, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for part 5. I'll do some more advanced stuff that you don't have to do, but you're more than welcome to. And when I've got this done, obviously I'm going to be carrying on with the perfect grade Zaku for Ammo of MIG, and I've still got my master grade Unicorn full armor Gundam, full armor Unicorn master, the grade master full with the, you know, the big white one with 8 billion. I've still got that. Yeah, I've still got that one. And I was doing that as a little silly fun build for myself, and I'll probably do it like this. Similar techniques. I'm not painting it fully, so I wish I'd known about the flipping Sharpies though. I'll tell you that. Some of the parts on that frame would look fantastic with those Sharpies. Anyway, enough waffle. I shall go and do things. As always, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed. Visit me on Facebook and the Twitters. Facebook.com/modelmakingguru, and on Twitter I am just @modelmakingguru, and on YouTube I'm Model Making Guru, but you'd know that because you're watching this video and you can see my channel name. So yes, take care of yourselves. Adios amoebas.